Jennifer, what is the difference between young adult fiction versus non-YA fiction?
Well, young adult fiction is a category. It is not technically a genre, and it involves protagonists for the most part that are ages 12 to 18 years old. The readership for a young adult is traditionally teens, but it has exploded. More adults are reading the category. So over 50% of the readers of young adult fiction are now technically adults. So that's basically what distinguishes it, will be teen characters.
Teen characters, okay. And in terms of what happens in the story, the arc, how does it differ from adult readership?
I don't know if the character arcs differ so much. I mean, they're basically the same kind of stories that everyone's telling. Technically, a lot of them maybe are coming-of-age stories. And they're because we're dealing with that time in a character's life, which is, their teen years. But right now, the genre has become so expansive that it's really tackling lots of hard-hitting issues, things like suicide, things like drug use, even things like abortion are being tackled. So it's really kind of expanded the kind of subject matter. I tend to write genre, which is science fiction. So you do see a lot of science fiction, fantasy kind of writing. And I think that it's kind of more fun because teen readers have huge imaginations and they love reading that kind of stuff.
Right. Now, what attracts you to science fiction versus more of, let's say, a personal, like an interpersonal story?
Yeah, like contemporary. Yeah, actually, contemporary is hugely popular. That's probably the most popular thing happening in young adult right now. And the first book I ever wrote was actually an adult contemporary novel, which did not sell. It did go on submission. That is a very typical story you'll hear from most authors. Most authors don't sell their first book. It did a lot of work for me. It landed me a huge agent, and I learned a lot writing it. But my heart and my passion has always been in genre writing. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. I love Star Wars movies. Growing up, I read a lot of science fiction stuff like Edgar Rice Burroughs, who wrote Tarzan, but I'm obsessed with his Mars books, his John Carter series. Once I started writing it, I just was like, wow, how did I not start writing this from the beginning? I love it so much. What I love about science fiction in particular is kind of this idea of where our world might be going and really grounding it in real science, real details, and really looking at something that might be predictive but also instructive about some of the pitfalls we're falling into. A lot of my books do deal with issues like weapons, nuclear proliferation, like what could happen in the future with that. So allegorically, it's pretty fascinating. Yeah, that's kind of what draws me to science fiction.
Can we talk about the ways in which the young adult audience differs from the adult audience, not just in terms of age, but also maybe in the outcome of the story? Or is it the same thing?
The story outcome, honestly, I think storytelling is storytelling. I think that those of us who are writing young adult are really striving to tell stories that are really captivating and interesting. So I don't know that there's a lot of difference between them, aside from the preoccupation. Like, you're not going to see a young adult story that's a lot about, long-term marriage. You might get it as terms of, parent characters and maybe relationships. But, young adult, I think, though, is a little bit freeing writing it because, with adult fiction, you tend to get locked into certain audiences, and I think the readers are a little more jaded. What I love about meeting teen readers is that they're not jaded. They are so enthusiastic. When they love something, they love it with their whole heart, and they get so excited. And there's nothing like getting kids reading. So that's sort of the difference that I see. And the adults that are reading it, they're looking for something fun and something escapist and something that reminds them of that time in their life when they were teenagers. So again, there tends to be less of like the jaded kind of, oh, this is like some huge literary book where like everyone hates each other and they're all unlikable. Like, not that you couldn't write that, but it tends to be a genre where it's more fun to read. I think people are looking for something that's enjoyable.
When these readers approach you at book signings or whatever, are they approaching you from the angle of enjoying the story and feeling as if the characters are real, or are they aspiring YA authors as well?
Most of the people that come to book festivals and book signings are just avid readers. Like, they're really passionate about reading. Usually the people that are turning up at these events read voraciously. So you're talking people that consume large quantities of books. Occasionally you get parents that are dragging their kids along, but mostly it's readers. I will get occasionally teens that are aspiring to write, and I do work with a mentoring program where I mentor kids and teach writing, which I love, and I always get excited whenever I meet someone that's interested in writing or inspired to write. A big thing that happens with young adult readers is that they end up writing fan fiction, or at least that's a lot of times their first foray into writing, which is hugely popular online. So fan fiction would be like Harry Potter fan fiction is huge. So that would be writing stories about the Harry Potter characters for fun, really. I mean, that's really the reason to do it. And there are quite a few fan fiction authors who've gone on to huge success. Like the author that wrote the Mortal Instruments series, she started out writing Harry Potter fan fiction. E.L. James, who wrote 50 Shades of Grey, that is Twilight fan fiction. So you see a lot of that going on.